Hello there. Welcome in to a Thursday edition of the show. So glad to have you, whether you're listening on 740 KVOR, Extra Sports 1300, or the streaming apps of those two fine radio stations, which are both free to download, both free to use at all times, and are both sponsored by Diversus Health, Mental Health, and Well-Being for All, a veritable cornucopia and a cavalcade of terrific guests coming your way over the course of the program. Kevin Henry, Rockies beat writer for the Gazette, will join me at the bottom of this hour. And Jennifer Green, head coach of the Air Force gymnastics team, will be joining me in hour number 2 because they are doing some very, very special things right now and have a chance to do even more this weekend down in Baton Rouge. The rest of the time, it's you and me, 719 24/7, 1313. You could call or text in your thoughts. I have a feeling you may want to say something about what happened last night. And look, I know we've been in the weeds a lot with the Nuggets lately, right? Lineup rotations, coaching strategy. They need to get this seed or they need to get that seed. They can't play this team. They have to play that one. It's a lot. And it's a lot of hand-wringing and worrying. And it's nice one night to just have all of that go to the side. Because you know, if you're a Nuggets fan, that no matter who they match up with, no matter in what round, and no matter what else is going wrong or what is going wrong with this team, they always have the best duo in the series, no matter what. Make up any matchup you want, the Nuggets have the best duo because they have the best duo in the league. There are no two teammates that together can do the things that Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic do together, especially against the Dallas Mavericks. Jamal Murray drops 53, and Nikola Jokic has 23 points, 21 rebounds, and 19 assists in a 142-135 win over Dallas. As absolutely ridiculous as those numbers are for Nikola Jokic, and they are objectively ridiculous, no one else puts up these kind of stat lines. And if he got another assist, he would have joined himself as one of the only players to have 20, 20, and 20. It's ridiculous. I can't think of another word other than ridiculous. And it is a joy to watch him go to work like he does on a nightly basis. But there are still few things in sport that are quite like the kind of performance you saw from Jamal Murray in that game. It's like a boxer or a great striker in the UFC. He lands a couple of jabs early, and you're like, ooh, those are good shots. And then a couple more. And then there's a point where you go, oh, here he goes. There's always a moment, right? There's always a moment. Last night or any one of these other games that Jamal Murray has where you go, yep, it's that night. It's not just a 5-minute stretch or a quarter. It's his night. There's always that realization, always that moment. And the anticipation building from one shot to the next, waiting for him to just crescendo into a flurry of jabs and uppercuts that ultimately pummel the opposition into submission. That's what, when Jamal Murray is like that, that's what it feels like to me. And like those great pugilists or great fighters, there's nothing wasted with one of those Jamal Murray type of games. he doesn't need the sheer volume, Bam Adebayo, to get big scoring nights. 19 of 28 from the field. Incredibly efficient. 9 of 14 from three-point range. And what should be appreciated, maybe not at the highest level, but up there, given the current discourse going on in the league, 6 free throws. That's it. 6. And of course, he made all of them. Jokic, even the Jokic that we have seen the last few games, and zoom out a little bit and look at his stat lines the last 3 games. Every night he's flirting with 20, 20, and 20. It's, even with that, it's so matter of fact. And you have to constantly fight the numbness that sets in to just be used to it. Just take it for granted, because the fact is everything runs through him at all times. Like, it's just a given that on a possession, Nikola Jokic is going to have the ball at some point, and it's a given that he's going to do something that impacts the Nuggets in a positive way. And it flows. It feels so effortless. A little skip pass into the corner here, hitting a guy on a back cut there. Here's a floater. Here's a layup. Here's a three-pointer. He's just omnipresent. But when Jamal Murray is on one of these kind of heaters, you notice every single shot that he takes. They're loud. They bring you out of your seat in a way that even with Jokic, it's like cumulative. By the end of it, you're like, what did I just witness? With Murray, you're realizing it in the moment. With every shot, you're living on every shot, oohing and awing. It's different. I'm not saying one's better than the other, but there's a different feeling when Jokic puts up a stat line like that and when Jamal Murray puts up a stat line like he did last night. But there isn't a duo in the league that can do what the two of them do together. It's John Stockton and Karl Malone on steroids. John Stockton and Karl Malone didn't put up these kind of numbers. But that mind meld, the how they work so well together, reading off of each other, knowing where they're going to be, knowing the right play to make, it's beautiful to watch. And you just, every once in a while, have to take a step back, like David Adelman did last night, and just appreciate what you're seeing. Don't worry so much about what that means long-term or anything. Just live in the moment. And it's something that you've been seeing for years now.
You know, we're very lucky in this city to have these two people playing for our basketball team, representing, Denver in general. With all the great sports teams we have in the city, these two guys for a decade, have just transcended it. And it's, I'm very lucky to be around them, get to know them as people. And then just to see them grow, like I said, as a person off the court, and then as a tandem on it, all the challenges they've faced and overcome. So it's just a cool night to take a break, take a breath, and remember that. This is really special.
Yeah, and I would put that two-man game when it's really working, like think back to the title run, I would put it against anything in sport. And one of the other teams that I follow the most frequently has the football version of that with Mahomes and Kelsey. It's great. There's just nothing that I watch in sports, certainly in Colorado sports, like that two-man game. There's nothing. And there's great, Nathan McKinnon, when he's bullying guys, Pat Surtain playing corner, the pass rush of the Denver Broncos. Like, there's a lot of things that you like right now in Colorado sports that you enjoy watching. There's nothing better than those two operating at that level that they're playing. And if you're opposing them like Jason Kidd was last night, good freaking luck.
Yeah, he was good. He was good early. He was good late. 53 points. A lot of his shots didn't touch the rim. And so he was shooting a three. Well, we tried to get two on to him, and then he found Joker, and then Joker did what he has done, most of his career, and that's be able to find others or score. His stat line is pretty cool too.
How do you stop Joker when he's going like that?
You can't stop him. You're not going to stop him. You just
not going to stop him. And no matter what else this team does or does not have, they have that. Right? As we get closer to the playoffs, just remember, they have that. That two-man game. And against Dallas, it's not like, if you want to dig into it, it's not like the issues the Nuggets have been having were not present last night. It's not that game was still closer than it should have been. And the Nuggets, in order to win that game, needed every one of Jamal Murray's 53 points, and they needed every one of Nikola Jokic's 23 points, 21 rebounds, and 19 assists. But they overcame all these other issues because of what those two were able to do together. They just don't matter as much when those two are working at that level. Now, the question is going to inevitably become in the playoffs. Does that, the best thing about the Denver Nuggets, trump the best thing about whatever their opponent brings to the table in any round? Right? Does the two-man game between Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic best the Oklahoma City Thunder defense? And the answer could be yes, and it doesn't mean that you don't have to worry about the would-be back-to-back MVP on the other side of the floor. It's not that all that other stuff doesn't matter. You still, the way I look at it is you take how much of a discrepancy is there between the Nuggets two-man game and whatever Team X has going in their favor. For the Lakers, Luka, right? Does that two-man game trump whatever Luka can do? Or what Anthony Edwards can do? And I think over the course of a 7-game series, the answer is yes. But how far apart is that? How wide is that margin? That's what you fill in with everything else. To either expand that margin between the Nuggets and their playoff opponent, or to make up, or does the difference between the two-man game and whatever the other team does best only be a slight margin, and all that other stuff means more? And that's kind of what I've been getting at, is everything with OKC. Even though the Nuggets have that two-man game, everything else with OKC starts stacking up, and that's where I go. I think at the end of it, you put OKC over the Nuggets. But I would even say in a series like that, Jokic and Murray is better than anything OKC does, which is part of the reason why Adelman has fought so hard in every meeting to get more balance with the officiating, because he knows if that is diminished even slightly, all that other stuff comes into play even more, and that's not a matchup that the Nuggets win. They have to at least have that, Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic at their full strength, whatever OKC does to them defensively, as long as it's within the rules of basketball. You can live with it. It's not like OKC is powerless to stop the two of them. But it doesn't need to be the whistle and OKC's defense, or more accurately, the lack of a whistle and OKC's defense. That's what David Adelman has been trying to do. But OKC, Boston, Houston, LA, name your team. And the best thing that they do is not as good as Jokic and Murray when they are on their game. As far as playoff positioning goes, nothing new to report. Lakers 1-2. But again, that's not what last night was about. I know I just got into the OKC of it all. I don't want to spend a lot of time on it because what last night was just appreciating what these two are capable of. And if I make a little joke here at the end of it, and they did it despite getting in at 4 a.m. from Phoenix. And they have won another game on the second night of a back-to-back. 719-247-1313. Take your thoughts on the show that Murray and Jokic put on. And I also, if you'll indulge me, I want to take, I want advice. I want your advice, relationship kind of advice, specifically. That's next on 740 KVOR and Extra Sports 1300. Welcome back to the show. Now, I had a meeting the other day with the powers that be at the company I work at, and they were saying that it's good these days on the air to be a bit vulnerable. Like, nobody's saying break down crying or anything, but just, connect with people in a more meaningful way than maybe you do on a regular basis. And I would say, this relationship, it's not so much host and audience member. It is a little bit more personal than that. We've had conversations. You text in, call into the show. We've seen each other out in the world. Like, I would say it's a little bit more personal than that. And look, I'm not afraid here. I feel like this is a place where I can seek some sage wisdom, even if it's about something personal to me. So here's the thing. Tomorrow, a party I was involved with, is the way I will put it, has re-entered the picture after an extended absence. Sure, maybe you found yourself in this situation. It would certainly help me out if you did. So this happens every so often. They've never been like totally out, but like, what's the word? Ghosting. There's a little ghosting going on back and forth at times. But usually around now, it kind of picks back up. I just had a birthday recently. They reach out and say, hey, we should get together. Now, when we get together, everything starts off really strong. And I'm not, no details or anything, but the old feelings that were there come, rushing back. And it's great. It's awesome. But then after a while, it just kind of fizzles. And it fizzles for the same reason it always does. It's because they don't change enough. They're the same. They're not really serious about us. They want to be, they say they are, and I believe their intent, but they just don't follow through, right? The old line, actions speak louder than words. So when this invitation came up, I thought, I don't know that I can put myself out there again only for them to let me down. And look, here's the thing. I'm not old by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm not as young as I once was, right? It's got to mean something. It's got to be significant. It has to be going somewhere. Like, I got a lot going on in my life. It has to be going somewhere. I have to know it is. And if we need to go a little bit slower this time around, that's fine. But I need to know that this is leading to something, or else I'm not going to waste my time. I can find something a little bit more casual elsewhere. There's just too strong of feelings for me to treat this as a casual thing. But I feel like this time there is something different about them. Like, for the first time, they're actually trying to earn my affections rather than knowing they'll probably get it anyway. So I want to try again this one last time, see where it goes. But at the same time, part of me is saying, I from everything, do I need to do this again? From everything that's happened in the past, I feel like they need to meet me more than halfway on this, right? And I don't know. Like I said, it's really good when we first get back together, and maybe I just enjoy the ride. I'm a grown man. I can deal with the inevitable letdown, right? And the thing is, I probably should have brought this up earlier, because here's the thing. It's tomorrow. We're planning to meet around 5. Well, actually like 5:10 tomorrow. They're oddly specific about the time, but there's stuff that they have to do right at 5. So 5:10 is the time they can commit to. So 719-247-1313. If you've been through this, I could certainly use your advice. Whether I do or do not make 5:10 tomorrow, if I'm going to commit at all to this Rockies season, and I don't see different, if I do not feel like this franchise that is now run by Walker Monfort and Paul DePodesta is going somewhere down the line, I got to be out. I got to be out. It's just not, it's not worth the time anymore. And I know they're not going to win a lot of games this year. I understand that, but not another 100-loss season. Give me 63. Give me 63 wins where I can identify a few players that are worth staying in touch with and worth following. And Zach Veen, he's hurt. Charlie Condon didn't make the opening day roster. Those are certainly two guys that I would kind of be looking at in that regard. We'll see if Matt's other kid, the Holiday, rapidly rises through the ranks here. But more than anything else, I think and if you're a Rockies fan or a one-time Rockies fan, I think you just need to see ideas. Like, what are you trying to do with this? With 5,280 feet, with the home road splits, with everything that comes along with being the Colorado Rockies. What are you trying to do here? What do you think would work? And if you got an idea, Paul DePodesta has done a lot in his career, especially in baseball. If he says this is the way to go, I'll follow. And I think a lot of Rockies fans will follow. But you got to see it. I understand one off season, it's not enough to fully get in. And Paul DePodesta has said this on multiple occasions. You know, he's got to pump up the R&D department here. They got to start figuring out some things before they can present their plan. And I'm willing to wait, but I got to either with the players that Warren Schaefer is putting on the field on a daily basis or in a post-game press conference or Paul DePodesta has a State of the Union at some point. Just need the ideas and need to see which players on this team fit that. And then what we have is something that is quite common in sports, and every other team that we follow out here, Broncos, Avalanche, Nuggets, have gone through something like that. And I was just talking about how about the fruits of the Nuggets' labor and the rebuild they went through. Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic last night. I've said this over the years with the Rockies. It doesn't take much. It really doesn't take much. We're not asking for a lot here. It's just our love of that team because of what they have given us with the Blake Street Bombers and with Rocktober. Man, those feelings come rushing back quickly, don't they? Clint Barmas off of Trevor Hoffman on opening day. Like, the memories start popping up. We want to buy in. We want to do it. And I think the Rockies know that. And I don't think that they've been trying to hoodwink us. I just don't think they've known what steps to take. So they brought in somebody who has a track record of knowing what steps to take. So let's see those steps. Let's start to understand where this franchise is going. And even if it's a slow rebuild in a nearly impossible division, every year it seems like everybody else in the NL West gets better and better and better. But we'll go along for the ride. I'll go along for the ride. So I said I want your advice. Honestly, it's more rhetorical. I know I'm going to tune in at 5:10. I know I'm going to get into this Rockies season, and I'm going to be following it along. And I just hope that it doesn't fizzle, not because of losses. I can live with those. But if they're losses on the way to something greater, then I'm in. 719-247-1313 on that topic. What should you be watching out for when this Rocky season begins? Kevin Henry of the Gazette stops by to provide exactly that next on 740 KVOR and Extra Sports 1300. Opening day around Major League Baseball might be technically today, although Yankees and Giants played last night and the Rockies and Marlins play tomorrow. But baseball season is here, and someone who is required reading not only at the beginning of the year, but throughout the season for the Denver Gazette is Kevin Henry, who joins me now. Kevin, pleasure to have you. How are you today?
Doing well, Ryan. Thanks for the time, man. And glad to be here.
Yeah, my pleasure. So certainly the personnel looks different with the Rockies, even with Walker now in charge rather than his father. Being around the team and talking to the team, does it feel different with the Rockies?
180 degrees. There is no question that there's a different feel, there's a different vibe, whatever you want to call it, energy, whatever the word is. Whenever you walk into the clubhouse, this is a team that is reinvigorated. It's a team that feels like, I heard you talk before the commercial, it feels like there's a plan in place. It feels like that they're doing things with intention. I kept hearing that word over and over again in Scottsdale. And so I absolutely believe there's a lot of different energy coming out of this team heading into Miami and tomorrow night.
I know, Paul DePodesta met with the media quite a bit early, and I haven't seen as much from him lately. When you talk about the intention behind what they're doing and all of that kind of stuff, is there any concrete idea? This, we go back and we debate, do we need the Blake Street Bombers every single year, or do we need guys that put the ball in the gaps in left and right center field, strikeout pitchers, ground ball pitchers? Have you gotten any indication of Paul DePodesta's preference on any of those things, or what type of players work for the Colorado Rockies?
I think what Paul looked at whenever he came in, and Josh Burns and the whole new leadership crew, it wasn't so much, in the past, the Rockies said, we've got to get all sinker ballers because the ball has to be on the ground. So the biggest thing that I heard at spring training was, we can't be afraid to attack the strike zone. We've got to go at them. Let them hit our best stuff. And it's got to be fastball, it's got to be curve, whatever it is. It is, let's go after the hitter, let's be aggressive, and then let's make sure that we've actually built up a roster behind defensively to support those pitchers. And I think if you look at this year's opening day roster versus last year's, it's very noticeable. There's a step up in talent. And I think that you're going to see a couple of names on there. Willie Castro, I think, is going to make an immediate impact for the Rockies. And I will tell you, I am super excited to see what TJ Rumfield is going to do at first base. I think he could be what we all hoped Mike Atolio would be in the past.
Kevin Henry, my guest, Rockies beat writer for the Gazette here on Drive Time Sports. As far as, so obviously the Rockies, couple of those players that you mentioned have got to add to what they already have.
Yeah.
Hunter Goodman as an encore, what is expected?
A lot of expected of Hunter, and not just at the plate and not just his offensive numbers, but the thing that I kept hearing in camp is they want him to take a step up behind the plate with the framing, the defense, all that stuff that goes into truly being an all-star catcher on both sides. Now that's a lot of, let's be honest, it's a lot of pressure for truly his second full season focusing on catcher. So there's a part of me that I think there could be a little bit of regression after last year. The bar was really set high. But I know Hunter is holding himself to a high standard, and he's one of those guys in the clubhouse that says, look, it's a new day. And he's excited about the veterans that got brought in for the rotation. But I think as he goes, the Rockies will go, especially early on in the season.
Talking about the players who have been added to the rotation, who's piqued your interest?
Michael Lorenzen, to be honest with you. He's the one that I'm really curious about. He's a guy that throws 8 pitches. He's a guy that has said time and time again, I want the challenge of Coors Field. I want to see if I can help solve it, as well as, that's one thing that Paul DePodesta has never backed away from, is the challenge of Coors Field. And Michael Lorenzen echoes that. And so I think he's a veteran guy with a good pitch mix that I think could do really well at Coors. And he's certainly not afraid of pitching at altitude.
Are we going to see Kyle Freeland come back around? Like, we've seen pitchers, and you've seen this, right, Kevin? Once it goes, it's gone, unfortunately. With Kyle Freeland, Do you think that he has the chance to bounce back and get back to what he used to be for the Rockies when he really first burst onto the scene?
Yeah, those first few years, Kyle was so good. They made the playoffs. There was so much good energy around that. I'll put an asterisk by it and say I think it really depends on what he does, not only health wise, but also his changeup. I know that's something he really focused on this spring. It's been a bugaboo pitch for him in the past, and he really thinks that he's kind of got a little bit of a handle on it with the new pitching staff that is there. And so I think if he can incorporate a good changeup in there, he may not be, Cy Young contender Kyle Freeland, but he's certainly going to be a lot better than he has in the past. And don't forget, this is a contract year for Kyle as well. And so I think there's a lot of pressure on him to perform on multiple levels because of that.
Why is Warren Schaefer ultimately the right guy? I mean, they could have went elsewhere after he filled in on an interim basis. Why do you feel like he's the right guy to lead this team at this moment?
Because if you go around that clubhouse and you talk to the guys, you will hear them not just once, but several times use something like, I'd run through a brick wall for that guy. They are so bought into not only him as a person, but him as a leader, him as a manager. And one thing that Warren was really able to do this off season and in spring training was put in his own culture. And I talked a little bit about that intention word a few minutes ago. Mm-hmm. And that's something that Warren Schaefer has said ever since he took over, is that he wanted to change the culture inside the clubhouse and make sure that the guys not only understood that they want the best out of them, but what that actually looks like and the metrics that they can use to get there as well.
So what does, and maybe we already saw it last year, but what's the hallmark of a Warren Schaefer managed team?
I think they play hard. I think you're going to see them run the bases a lot more this year.
That is great news.
Yeah, I think they're going to be a team that's going to push the envelope. I mean, let's be honest. Coming off of last season, there's not a lot to lose. And these are guys that are really wanting to put last season and behind them. And the best thing that they can do is use the skills that they've already got. There's a lot of speed on this team. Jake McCarthy coming on board from the Diamondbacks. He's probably going to be your leadoff guy this year. I think you're going to see a lot from him as far as what they like to say in Scottsdale, causing chaos on the bases. And so I think that they're really going to try to push the envelope, and I think that that's a big hallmark of what Schaefer brings.
One of the things that you have written, and you've written quite a bit, obviously, over the last few days, Kevin Henry, but I really enjoyed you laying out all the things that you kind of hope to see or need to see this season of the ones that you wrote. And I would encourage people to go on Gazette.com and read the entirety of this. But if you could pick out one of these things that as the non-negotiable, this has to happen in year one of this new grand experiment at 20th and Blake, what do you think that would be?
Hallmark one is develop these young players, whether it's Chase Dolander, whether it's Jordan Beck, all these young guys that are going to really be the foundation of this team moving forward. They have to take a step forward this year. There can't be is Chase going to bounce back and forth between AA? It has to be that he is stuck here, whether it's bullpen to start the year, then move into the rotation or whatever that looks like. But he is a better pitcher at the end of the year. And I think that has to go for every one of these young guys that they really believe is a part of, that next October run that will happen one of these days and hopefully sooner than later.
I know Chase was surprised. Were you surprised that he's not in the rotation?
Very much so. Honestly, that was a big surprise. I mean, I did not anticipate A and B being an answer. But I think that also goes to show you they're willing to look outside the box for different ideas. I don't think that the team that was there last year in the front office or even Bud Black, as much as I love Bud, I don't think they would have thought of Chase as a reliever. I think they would have forced him to be a starter. Whereas these guys are looking at, look, if he can be in the bullpen, learn from our guys and be effective, then that's a great start to where they're going.
No, and let's also not pretend like the paradigm hasn't shifted in Major League Baseball. If Dolander can be a relied upon reliever, what a boon that would be for the Colorado Rockies. So we'll all see how it comes together for at least game one against the Marlins. Kyle Freeland will be on the hill for that one, and Kevin Henry will be on the laptop turning out terrific pros for that one. Kevin, this was great. Let's do it again soon.
Tell me when, Ryan. I'll be there. Thanks so much.
Will do. Appreciate you. That's Kevin Henry, outstanding Rockies beat writer for the Gazette, joining me here on Drive Time Sports. And again, I would point to one of Kevin's recent works of prose in the Gazette where he lays out all these things. I look at the first one that he put on here, which is reclaiming home field advantage. Like, that's even when you went to like the Blake Street Bomber days. Okay. There wasn't a lot of great team success. They were like 82 and 80, but man, they made it miserable for other teams coming in. And what has happened recently is that it's almost more miserable for the Rockies to exist at Coors Field than their opponents. I think that is the thing that I think all of these that Kevin lays out are terrific. That's the one I look at. Can the Rockies, when you go to 20th and Blake, because let's be frank here, you're going to go, or enough people are going to go, maybe you personally not, but you know that ballpark is going to get a good crowd, a crowd not commensurate with the results on the field recently. Can those people be rewarded? At least that. And then kind of the next step out of that, right? They talk about the if you want to be a great team, you got to kind of dominate at home and you got to round 500 on the road. Right? Not saying the Rockies have to dominate at home, but let's have the Rockies winning a significant number of games more at home than they lose. And then go on the road. Now, I've put this out as my, I guess, wish list for the Colorado Rockies. Getting to one of the questions I asked Kevin right off the top about what Paul DePodesta thinks will win. One of those is the base running, the chaos on the base pass. I absolutely think now that the bases are, the bigger bases and it's easier to steal, I think the Rockies have to do that kind of stuff. But I'm one that said, as much as I love the Blake Street Bombers, and don't get me wrong, I had season tickets with my family in left field. We sat behind Dante Bichette for years and loved those Blake Street Bomber teams. If we're talking about the Rockies being a serious franchise and trying to win consistently, they can't do it that way. They just can't. It has to be good contact guys exploiting the and even with the wall out there in right field, I just think contact is the way to go over power. Speed, which the Rockies, as Kevin says, they do have that. Go on the base pass and just try to knock around pitchers. Like that constant, like death by 1,000 paper cuts offensively is kind of what I'm looking for with the Rockies. And then I've been of the mind, I used to have a debate with my former co-host, Matt Pauley, about this. He wanted pitch to contact guys. He wanted guys that would get the ball on the ground. And I said, I want strikeout pitchers. I want guys that know how to get guys out. It seems like there's now a blend. Listening to Kevin speak, there's a blend of those two things. It's just more about challenging hitters. And we'll see how it comes together. I know I went on the big, long diatribe, but I legitimately think that these moves are necessary at this time, probably overdue, honestly, to just show that, hey, different people, different cooks are in the kitchen here. And I think with how much this state wants to fall back in love with the Colorado Rockies, I think that's a great first step. All right, different voices, different ideas, and let's go from there. Again, it all starts tomorrow at 5:10 against the Miami Marlins. Baseball started last night, and this is why every team doesn't start on opening day. Whatever. But so last night, Yankees played the Giants on Netflix, which Netflix, to use a baseball term, huge swing and a miss with your presentation. And it was like Bert Kreischer's on the field. It was almost like Netflix said, let's have an advertisement for the programming on Netflix during a baseball game. Like, it just felt, I heard Dan Patrick this morning talking about it, and I, like so many things, he puts it way better than I ever can. It was more about Netflix than it was about opening day Yankees Giants. So I thought, as far as the talent that they had, Matt Vasgersian, all that kind of stuff, the talent was there. I'm just saying the broadcast presentation lacked something, and it felt more about Netflix than baseball. And they didn't even include this guy in there.
You sure about that? You sure about that? You sure about that? That's why?
If Tim Robinson throws out the first pitch, then you got me hooked. Bert Kreischer yelling on the field, not so much. And then the big development today, Paul Skeens, yeesh, got knocked around. First time he hasn't been able to make it out of an inning. Gave up 5 runs against the Mets. And the Mets they got a lot of new players in their lineup. And they look to be a good lineup, but wasn't expecting former Air Force Falcon Paul Skeens to get knocked around like that. But I suppose, I was thinking about this, both watching Aaron Judge last night strike out 4 times, and then watching Paul Skeens or seeing the line from Paul Skeens. I've watched some highlights since then, knowing what he was doing. And I kind of think back to the World Baseball Classic, and I'm like, I think the signs were there. Signs were there that maybe these two guys, maybe not to this degree. I mean, my goodness, striking out 4 times for Aaron Judge being the only Yankee without a hit last night, and then Paul Skeens getting roughed up to this degree, I certainly didn't see coming. But, Paul, after he breezed through that Dominican lineup early, he ran into a lot of trouble. And credit to him, he was able to get out of it, but his stuff wasn't dominating the way it is. And I get it, the Mets aren't the Dominican Republic here. But there were some signs I kind of felt like there that maybe Paul Skeens was not going to come out of the gates firing. But, I mean, they always say that the pitchers are not they're behind more than the hitters. Tell that to Aaron Judge. But usually the pitchers strengthen as the season goes along. So I think Paul Skeens will certainly still be very much in line for a Cy Young and whatever $800 billion deferred contract the Dodgers are getting ready to offer him. But yeah, Mets smoke the Pirates today. Rockies start up tomorrow against the Miami Marlins. Coming up next, more on the evening that Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray had, and one teammate really going to bat for Jokic when it comes to just who he is, best player in the world, MVP, all of this kind of stuff. And our question of the day that, if you don't mind answering, we would appreciate it. Who's the greater nugget, Jamal Murray or Carmelo Anthony? Let's rekindle that debate as well. You're listening to Drive Time Sports on 740 KVOR and Extra Sports 1300. Welcome in. Glad to have you. Shouts to those of you watching this show, which you can on a daily basis, anywhere you scroll, just as long as you follow 740 KVOR or Extra Sports 1300 on the platform of your choice. And following both of them would be even better. Not to get too needy, would be great. And while you're there, like, subscribe, comment. Most importantly, that third one, because this is an interactive experience. Jennifer Green, the head coach of the Air Force gymnastics team, will be my guest. They are doing something quite special right now. And I want to bring her on to talk about what they are doing that is so special and what even more special they can accomplish coming up this weekend. But just an incredible night of basketball for the Denver Nuggets, specifically their star duo in Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic. 53 points for Jamal Murray. Missed all of 9 shots in the game. Nikola Jokic, 23, 21, and 19. And there's been a lot of discussion lately about the MVP, about the best player in the world on this program and on others. Peyton Watson weighing in. I thought Peyton Watson was pretty good last night. Saw more of him than you did against Portland, although Jokic kept giving him the ball when he was looking for that 20th assist, and Peyton Watson was able to come through there. But I thought Peyton Watson was pretty good last night. But he defended, I don't know if defended is the right word, but just kind of told it how it is with Nikola Jokic and the fact that he seems to be so absent from the MVP conversation and is being moved down the pecking order by the Ringer when it comes to best player in the world. And I thought Peyton Watson really hit the nail on the head. He said, I feel like sometimes if he doesn't have one of these games like he has tonight, people say he has a bad game. And I just think that that's wrong. But at the end of the day, when you show excellence and signs of greatness, people are going to hold you at that standard. You see it with all the great ones, watching people through their ascension and getting to where they want to go. That's when people are the most supportive because they feel like they're in early. They're buying stock early. But when everybody knows you're great, the only thing left to do is hate. And that last part of it, and that quote, courtesy of Denver Post Nuggets writer Bennett Durando, it's spot on. And it speaks to the MVP conversation. It speaks to the MVP conversation when Nikola Jokic was denied at the time his third MVP by Joel Embiid. And it applies now to where for some voters, like Jokic could not be. I heard Stephen A. Smith today, didn't even bring him up. Michael Wilbon, when he made those comments that have gone viral, which I don't agree with. You know, the way that he trashed Luka as if he can't even stand the guy, yet he's repeatedly voted James Harden for MVP in the past. Like, I know Luka doesn't play a lot of defense, but come on now. All of a sudden, defense must be a part of the equation. But he didn't even bring up Jokic. And I'm saying, Nikola Jokic doesn't have to be number one on anybody's list. I am a believer in the 65-game rule. Nikola Jokic is just on pace right now to just barely clear it. I'm okay with the idea that other players get held up higher than Jokic, considering we were without him for about a month. And that speaks to how good this MVP race is, how many quality candidates there are, whether it's Shea or Wemby or Jokic or Jaylen Brown, Cade Cunningham. Like, I have no problem with this, but for him not to even enter into people's headspace is just crazy to me. And we went through this when Nikola Jokic came back from injury. You watch the games. By Jokic standards, you are not impressed. And you certainly don't have the malicious intent that maybe some people do against Nikola Jokic. You wanted him to be great, but you watched him coming back from the injury and you're like, yeah, just not what he was before, which is a fact. By his standards, he wasn't up to it after missing the longest stretch of games he ever has in his career. And that's where you can kind of understand. But that guy's back now. The guy before the injury, before Spencer Jones stepped on his foot. Nikola Jokic has flirted with 20, and 20 every game for the last 3 games. I know we do this, play with numbers, and, the Nuggets love doing that as well. The first duo to have, 76 points and 35 rebound, whatever it is. Like, we play with these numbers, and it's like, okay, if you're going to be that specific with those benchmarks, of course, nobody has ever done it. But like 20, and 20, we can all kind of understand. And the fact that he's been right around there, you would not be surprised to find out that very few players ever, in fact, none players ever, have had a stretch like Nikola Jokic has had over the last 3 games. So that guy is back. And I said that let's not close up the MVP race yet. I don't think Jokic is leading. And I don't think he's going to end up even maybe in the top 2. But can we let this thing play out? Can we let everybody get their closing arguments in and then come to a decision? But to Peyton Watson's point, we're so quick, like Wemby is that right now. And look, I think he's going to fulfill every lofty expectation that has been placed in front of him. He is going to be the best player in this league, the best player in the world. He's going to be the face of the league in many ways because he is somebody that wants it. With his comments the other day about the MVP, he's going to be a guy that is going to beat his chest a little bit. He's going to have that attitude that Luka and Jokic just don't have. He wants it, and that's fine. I'm not saying one is better than the other, but if you're going to be the face of the league, you kind of got to want to be, and Victor wants to be. But everyone wants to jump in early and say, I was there when. But then it's, once they get to a certain point, it's like, nah, I'm done with him. And that's why, and it's not so much the MVP conversation, it's more the ringer knocking him down a notch in the best player in the world. Like, if you want to go somewhere else with your MVP vote because of all these great stories this year and all these great performances, that's fine. But to say that this year from Nikola Jokic knocks him off of the pedestal for being the best player in the world, like, that's nonsense. He still is that. So Peyton Watson's spot on, and it kind of goes to what I said to start the show. You almost become numb to what Nikola Jokic does on a nightly basis. You expect it. You take it for granted, and it's human nature to do so. But you got to fight through it. You got to be like, no, I can't take this for granted. I can't get numb to it. Especially when you're a Nuggets fan and you can remember, if you're of a certain age, you can remember prior to George Karl, Carmelo Anthony, Kenyon Martin, that whole group, man, those were bad times. My goodness. Can't take for granted what you're getting on a nightly basis. And if something else catches your eye, that's okay. But still keep in mind who Nikola Jokic is. This is a ridiculous stretch of games that he's putting together. And he should at least be mentioned in the MVP voting. But as far as wanting to be in early and not sticking around, I mean, doesn't that encapsulate the MVP conversation? It was Shea. Luka hits one jumper over, and it was a big jumper, but hits that over Spencer Jones, and then it's Luka. And now all of a sudden, Jaylen Brown outduels Shea last night, and everybody's on to Jaylen Brown. They had decided this all this time, and now they're going, oh, well, maybe we should talk about Jaylen Brown. Maybe you should just keep your options open till the end of the season. Maybe you should let it play out. And then, yeah, it's fine to say, I think Shea is the front runner, but it was so, I think his MVP odds went to like minus 2,000 right after he hit that shot over Spencer Jones. Like it was over. And now, lo and behold, shocker. Oh, no, it's not over. Nikola Jokic needs to be in that conversation. And if you put him down on the list, I think there are arguments to do that, but let's still keep in mind where his place is in the game. This season, maybe he's not the MVP, more deserving than Victor Wembanyama, who has transformed the Spurs, Luka, who has done something similar to the Lakers, and another unbelievable season from Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, or Jaylen Brown being able to help not just keep the Celtics afloat, but have them thrive without Jason Tatum. The great irony of this MVP race is that just now, we're talking about Jaylen Brown. The guy plays for the Boston Celtics. I thought it used to be that the NBA was all about the Celtics and the Lakers. And nobody's been talking about what Jaylen Brown's doing. Now, maybe that's geography. Maybe it's because I live out here and the Eastern Conference is not at the forefront of anybody's mind out here because there's so much going on in the West. But like Jaylen Brown's been doing this all year without Jason Tatum, and the Boston Celtics have at no point dropped from, in my mind, the team to beat in the East, even when they didn't have Jason Tatum. And Jaylen Brown's a huge reason for that. And so is Joe Mazzulla, who should get serious Coach of the Year consideration. But let's let this thing play out a little bit, and let's acknowledge that it's a little bit deeper field here. Because it was a field of one like 3 weeks ago. Spot on from Peyton Watson, who continues to, this is not why he's doing it, but Peyton Watson certainly continuing to make his way into the hearts of Nuggets fans. And I've told you my thought here about what the Nuggets may be contemplating here with Peyton Watson and where he fits. Maybe in place of a guy that did not play the second night of a back-to-back due to injury management. I think Peyton Watson wants to be paid this offseason for sure with this breakout season he's had, but I think he'd like to stay playing with Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray. And he was good last night. Nuggets were good. Here's another one. I asked this question to producer Ray Dominguez earlier. Like, if you could just forget the what you would get in a trade or how it would impact the salary cap. If I just told you that next year, instead of Christian Brown being the starting two guard, it would be Tim Hardaway. Would you take that? Because I think saying Peyton Watson in for Aaron Gordon, that's a stretch. I don't think anybody wants to go there yet, even though I think the Nuggets are contemplating it. But Tim Hardaway for Christian Brown, I think a lot of people would choose Hardaway over Christian Brown at this point. It would be cheaper. 719-247-1313. Our question of the day is in regards to Jamal Murray, who had 53 points last night. Who's the greater Denver Nugget? Because we know Nikola Jokic is number one. That's done. Has Jamal Murray slid into the number two spot above, say, Carmelo Anthony, or if you're of a certain age, an Alex English or David Thompson? 719-247-1313. Jennifer Green, head coach of the Air Force gymnastics team, my guest after this on 740 KVOR and Extra Sports 1300. Well, if you haven't been noticing, the Air Force women's gymnastics team has put together a pretty special season and has a chance to be even better starting this weekend down in Baton Rouge. Joining me now to discuss is the head coach of that program. She was named Mountain West Coach of the Year in this, her 6th season at the Air Force Academy. She is Jennifer Green. Coach Green, pleasure to have you on. How are you today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
So, what you guys are doing is you are going to regionals for the 3rd time ever and the first since the 2002 season. I want to take you back a year. Your team finishes 5-11. What were you thinking about what this year's team could accomplish at the end of last year?
Wow. No, I mean, obviously you think you can obviously do better than you were last year. Thinking that we would end up 30th in the country. I'm not so sure that was on my brain. Moving up in, 10 spots possibly. I think that's more where I was realistically. And then once the buy-in started happening this season, then it was easy to see that they started believing they were as good as they really are. So we've seen the talent. Mm-hmm. They just haven't possibly, I think, believed that they belonged at this level. And I think now they are seeing that they belong.
Was there a singular moment or a weekend where you noticed the collective light bulb going on with your team this year?
I do think there was a part, we had a double weekend. We were in Mizzou and at Mizzou, and then we went to San Jose, and they had we had finally broken the 196 mark. And then on the double weekend, that's usually when it's pretty hard. Your bodies are a little sore and tired. They broke it again on Sunday. So I think that started to click. I think once you get the monkey off your back that you've had this goal of getting to 196, then it kind of was a little easier, I think. Not easier, but they just started to believe that they could continue to do it. So then they broke the 197 mark. So that was not even in our expectations for this year.
So am I reasonable to assume that you're having a lot of fun coaching this team and you think that maybe even the best be yet to come, Coach Green?
I definitely think best could be yet to come. It's been a lot of fun. 22 young ladies can sometimes be hard. There hasn't been really a hard day the whole season. They have just the leadership from the top down has just been amazing on our team, and they just all bought in. So it's really, they chose to see where we could go, I think. So that was kind of neat. They chose to believe that we could do this. Yes, I do think that there's more for this team. I do think that even with the scores we had, we still didn't hit 4 out of 4 events perfectly. Mm-hmm.
Jennifer Green, the head coach of the Air Force women's gymnastics team, my guest. They're off to the NCAA regionals this weekend, and I've spoken to some of your colleagues, whether it's Troy Calhoun with the football team, Frank Serratori with the hockey team, and even in calling games for Stacey McIntyre with the women's basketball team, as I do, they all have kind of the same thing, that the best Air Force teams are the oldest Air Force teams. The older you are, the better off you're going to be at the academy, and you have a senior class that has certainly propelled you in terms of their results. But how important has this senior class been to everything you've talked about, to helping the team believe that they could achieve maybe more than what they've shown, and to help perpetuate what you guys have done this season?
Well, really, I couldn't have done it without them. We are short-staffed right now, so it's just myself and Sharon Kelly, who's the assistant coach. So our athletes have put in helping with social media, doing all different kinds of things. So their roles they've really bought into doing anything and everything they can to leave this better than they found it. So they definitely are leaving it better than they found it. And There's a knock on wood. There hasn't been a lot of drama on our team this year, so that's huge with 22 young ladies. Or on any team actually. It's just been nice. It's just, I hate to say it, it's almost just been easy to come into the gym. It's always our special place and our kind of our place we can relax and be ourselves. And they have just stepped it up to the next level. So it's been a blessing.
How special of an athlete is Maggie Slife?
Kind of one in a lifetime kind of athlete. She is just pretty much all about rituals and routines. She does the same thing every single day. You would think she's kind of like a robot. So she just, it's no change. There's no big, huge emotional anything. She does her stuff. She gets in there and does her things. She actually is opened up personality wise and as a leader, not just in her work ethic, but pulling the other athletes along with her. So it's been fun to see her open up in a different leadership role besides just the work ethic side of things.
And I know last year she was almost painfully close, to accomplishing the goals that she had last year. How motivated is Maggie as well this weekend and hopefully beyond to take a step further in her for herself individually, as well as obviously there's a team goal at play here as well.
No, absolutely. I think that it all started last year at regionals. So last year at regionals, I think it just kind of all clicked for Maggie. It was very easy. She kind of just, went through the motions, and she ended up, the next person in. So I think she missed every single tie. So it was like every single next play in, she was the one right under her. She missed every tiebreaker. So she definitely is motivated to get beyond regionals. Obviously, you can see throughout the whole season, she's top in the country on bars. She's top in the country on all around. And I think obviously her success has helped open eyes for everybody else what Air Force can do. So I think she's opened, the people before us obviously opened up doors, but Maggie's success has as well opened up the doors for the whole team to be successful. So she's very motivated. She would love to see herself move on to the NCAA tournament for sure. Mm-hmm. She'd like to be in Dallas in a couple weeks.
Yeah, and we like to see her there. Jennifer Green, the head coach of the Air Force women's gymnastics team. My guess, college athletics, and, we always think of it through the lens of, college football or men's basketball, but it is changed in so many ways for every program, I'm sure yours included, over the last, few years. And I've talked to people who kind of wonder even more now, how is Air Force supposed to compete? Like, I get that question a lot when I'm on the road with the Air Force women's basketball team, or I'm on this show talking about Air Force football or men's basketball or your team. How can Air Force compete? Well, you're showing that you can. So how is it that Air Force in this ever-changing landscape of college athletics can still put out not just competitive teams, but excellent, like NCAA regional level teams like you've been able to have this year?
Well, our cadets do hard things every day. We talk about that all the time. So they do amazing hard things every day. So we kind of put that in the mindset that this isn't harder than anything else you've done every day. Also, the Academy has so many incredible opportunities. And I know we like to look at the NILs. We like to look at all those other kinds of things. But what the Academy has to offer for setting yourself up for the next 40 years, there's no place better than that. So I believe that that's the biggest recruiting tool I have, is that it's helping them for the next 40 years. And that's the goal of hopefully every program in the collegiate world, is to set you up for success for the next, part of your life and the next adventure. So that way, I think we're still getting the great recruits on that side of things. And it does take a special person to come to the Academy. It takes a special person to be willing to sign their name. And we've always put that we're the total package. And I think it's just starting to come through that we can be great militarily, we can be great athletically and academically. And we've just kind of started to figure out how to recruit the total package, I think.
Well, it's kind of you got like almost a play-in here at regionals. The Huskers are up first. So how are you feeling about the matchup with Nebraska?
Oh, Nebraska's a great team. Heather will have them ready for anything that we have. There's no offense or defense in gymnastics, right? So we just have, our whole mantra has been the whole year of, just keep building, put our head down and do what we can control. So, stay in our little bubble and just kind of do us, try not to be bigger or different than who we really are, stay with our personality, stay with what was happened all season long. And so we'll just go in there and enjoy the moment. And the goal would be to move on to Thursday night.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That is the Baton Rouge regional will be at 1:00, April 1st on ESPN Plus. And then if Air Force wins, they will be on the floor with LSU, Clemson, and Auburn to keep on advancing. Jennifer, really appreciate you taking time to tell the story of the program that has been doing amazing things this year. And we look forward to seeing what you guys do at regionals. Thanks so much for the time.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Go Falcons indeed. That is Jennifer Green, the Mountain West Coach of the Year, leading the Air Force Falcons to a shared Mountain West regular season title with Utah State, which was their first in program history. I feel like I'm derelict in my duty because I don't think I mentioned the depth of the accomplishment this year for this women's gymnastics team. But I loved Jennifer's answer with the, how do you win at Air Force? I think it's such an outside view from people who don't get it. And I'm not trying to tear anybody down. You don't know what you don't know. You're in Denver or you're elsewhere in the country. When I get approached by people when I'm on the road, I don't expect them to understand. But if you're here and you follow Air Force sports, you know that these are remarkable men and women who are there. So that how remarkable they are doesn't just extend to them wanting to commit to a career in the military. It's to everything that they do. And these coaches like Jennifer and others, they go out and they challenge, I think, these athletes to say, hey, you want to challenge? You really want to show what you can do? Come to the Air Force Academy. And I said this the other day, you get a Chris Hedden on the hockey team. You get a Milani Perry on the women's basketball team, a Maggie Slife on the gymnastics team. And it changes everything. And then they raise the level of everybody around them. And then you have other athletes popping up and you're like, oh, I didn't know that athlete was capable of that. So I bristle at the notion that you can't be successful. You can't be competitive at Air Force. They have continuously shown, even in today's day and age, that they're not where they want to be in every sport. But there are far more great stories up at the academy than not great stories right now. And Jennifer Green's team is certainly one of those. Appreciate her taking time to join me and talk a little bit about her team. We'll take a break and have more Drive Time Sports right after this on 740 KVOR and Extra Sports 1300. Gabe Landeskog is getting one of his teammates back tonight. Avs and Jets coming up. I can't snap. I was trying to do the West Side Story thing. Avs and Jets at 6 o'clock. Arturi Lehkonen back in the lineup. Nick Waugh out. So still chasing a fully healthy Avalanche squad. But Arturi Lehkonen, big one to get back. So that will move, you'll move Ross Colton down a line, which is where I think he's inevitably going to play with Nazem Kadri. No Nick Waugh means that Logan O'Connor will most likely move up to the third line. I thought Logan O'Connor was really impactful in his first game back, and the guy didn't even play 5-on-5 hockey at practice. It was his first 5-on-5 game since, or anything at 5-on-5 hockey action since he was in the lineup last, which was last year. So Avs look to keep it going. Nuggets won their fourth game in a row last night. Avalanche have the chance to do the same thing tonight against the Fighting Connor Hellebucks at 6 o'clock. Also, the Sweet 16 begins tonight. Our coverage starts at the top of the hour on Extra Sports 1300. What I'm looking out for, I think the best matchup is Nebraska-Iowa. I am very much into that matchup. Talked about both of these schools, especially Nebraska. Yeah, Cinderella, as we know her, is probably dead, but that doesn't mean there aren't great stories. Right? There are teams that you're not expecting to be here. And given the history of Nebraska basketball, I don't think a lot of people expected them to be on the verge of an Elite Eight appearance. And then there's Iowa, who has had a resurgence under Ben McCollum. And, Kevin Henry, Rockies beat writer for the Gazette, joined me earlier, and he said that Warren Schaefer was a manager that players would want to run through a wall for. I've heard the same thing about McCollum at Iowa. But this is going to be like real Big Ten type stuff going on, not, the USC and the finesse. This is going to be as Jim Ross used to say, a slobber knocker. So I'm looking forward to that one. And then Darius Acuff, maybe the best player left in this tournament. You could talk about Boozer if you want to. I think Acuff, the point guard for Arkansas, is tremendous going against the team I thought would win this whole tournament, and that's Arizona. So that's a really good matchup as well. You get the Cinderella Longhorns. If you look at seeding, they are the Cinderella, as they are in action too against Purdue. And then the late game tonight, tipping off just after 8:05, will be Houston and Illinois. That'll be a good matchup as well. Our coverage on Extra Sports 1300 from Westwood One, it's like red zone coverage. Start with the first game, then they'll dip into the second, kind of move around, bring you to where the best action is among the four games this evening in the Sweet 16. And we'll talk about the other half of it tomorrow when we reconvene. So that's what's going on tonight. Going on right now is a conversation after a 53-point performance, 2 points away from tying a career high. Quick, Ray, who did Jamal Murray score his career high 55 against?
I don't know.
Portland.
Dang it.
It's okay. But after his 53 points, we're asking the question, who's the greater Nugget, Jamal Murray or Carmelo Anthony? That is for the number 2 spot right now behind Nikola Jokic. What say the peeps?
All right, on Facebook, we got Lucas. Which one helped bring a ring? Enough said. Jerry, Murray hands down. Todd, Murray, Melo was great, but didn't accomplish anything and left. Murray's a champion. From Eric, Murray. And then from Derek, Fat Lever. There's always one.
There's always one. So not much of a question of the day. I liked your question of the day. It seems like we have come to a consensus, except for here's what I will say. Jamal Murray is going to be, and maybe they might retire at the same time so they can get their jerseys retired at the same time. That would be really fun. Jamal Murray is going to be the second greatest Denver Nugget ever. I think the Mount Rushmore is going to be Jokic, Murray, Melo, and Alex English. But the championship is difficult to argue against. Don't get me wrong. It absolutely is. And now Jamal Murray's an all-star. And maybe he has surpassed Carmelo. Maybe I'm just being a little bit stubborn here. But let's not forget that Carmelo Anthony turned around a desperate, pathetic Nuggets franchise. And that means something. Does it mean more than a title? That's kind of what the question is asking. But Carmelo did a ton for the Denver Nuggets, and not to go down a bad road to diminish Jamal Murray at all. Carmelo Anthony was clearly the best player on those teams and the reason why they were winning as much as they did. So I still kind of cling to Carmelo, but it's a foregone conclusion. I mean, Jamal Murray now has reached the heights that you and I always thought were there. He just didn't reach, and now he has. He's an all-star. He's going to be all-NBA. Ray, do you think if Cade Cunningham is not eligible, do you slot Jamal Murray to first-team all-NBA or Jaylen Brown?
Who's your all-NBA right now?
Luka, Wemby, Jokic, Shea, and it would be Cade. But if he's ineligible, you got to go to a next one. I think the next guy up would be Jaylen Brown.
That's what I was thinking.
Okay. And it's positionless. So if we were talking about you got to replace Cade Cunningham with more of a guard or a point guard, it'd be Jamal Murray would be the easy fit. But yeah, I think Jaylen Brown's. Yeah.
Where do you put Aaron Gordon?
In the greatest?
Yeah. Without him, I don't know if Nuggets win a championship either.
I think he goes down as one of the most beloved Denver Nuggets. But I mean, think about it. You run down the list. Jokic, in no particular order. Jokic, Murray, English, Melo, Fat Lever. Would Aaron Gordon be above Dikembe Mutombo? I don't think he would be.
No.
So I think he is one of the more beloved Denver Nuggets, and I can say that because Carmelo Anthony, I don't think is a beloved Denver Nugget, but I think people recognize, maybe not to the level I do, but do recognize his greatness as a Denver Nugget. But he is certainly not beloved. But I don't think Aaron Gordon would.
I'd say top 10.
Dan Issel would probably be above him.
Okay.
How many is that at? Jokic, Murray.
Yeah,
8. That's 8?
I believe so.
So I got to find 2 more. 2 more Nuggets.
Do you put a Chauncey or a AI?
No. I love that. You want to talk about beloved. AI is one of my most beloved Denver Nuggets. That was a where were you when? I remember every moment of that day. Every moment of that week when Allen Iverson got traded to Denver Nuggets. It was one of the highlights of my sports fandom growing up was when AI got traded. Did not quite work out the way everyone would have liked, but it was amazing to have AI on the Denver Nuggets. And sometimes you forget that he was a Nugget. And then you're reminded and like, yeah, that was awesome.
David Thompson?
Oh, I didn't mention David Thompson. Yeah, David Thompson is arguably on the Mount Rushmore. So,
Okay.
yeah, that would be 9. So, Gordon 10?
Yeah. Someone said Nene.
No. Aaron Gordon has passed Nene, or Maybiner Hilario, as he was known when the Nuggets drafted him. He is above Nicolas Skidishvili and Rafe LaFrentz and Danny Fortson.
Okay. One name, MPJ. Where's that going?
Oh, I didn't mention MPJ.
Yeah.
New Mount Rushmore. Carmelo Anthony, Michael Porter Jr., Rafe LaFrentz. No. Aaron Gordon has also surpassed Michael Porter Jr.
Yes.
As if it was a question at any point. I just want people to appreciate what he did. That's all. I'm not saying you have to put him higher than he needs to be on the all-time pecking order here. All right. Other topic, Rockies. Yes, I'm being lured back in. Always happens around this time every year, and I'm gonna tune in tomorrow. I'm gonna see this thing. I know that I'm in the minority. What say people about the new day dawning or lack thereof with the Colorado Rockies?
From the 719, a tiger never changes its stripes.
And that is the saying. But what if they weren't a tiger all along? What if they were a panther? And what I mean by that is I don't know if the Rockies have ever gotten a handle on who they really are, what they should be. And they have now, with this brain trust, given them the best chance to figure it out. So that's why I'm. And look, I know they're gonna flirt with 100 losses. Like, nobody's talking about the Rockies surprising here. It's just, do you have a level of curiosity with the new regime in place? And I think the tiger stripe comment was also about the Momforts, but I'm usually not big on scions. You know that. I push back vehemently against anybody with the last name Bolin taking over for the Denver Broncos. But there's a chance it could work the other way. Right? So if Dick Momfort was very bad, could his scion, his son, Walker, have learned from his mistakes and could be better in that role? I'm not saying he is. I'm just saying I'm willing to see. I'm willing to see it. I'll report back to you periodically on my findings.
Real quick.
Yes.
If you love them, then you owe it to yourself to give them a chance. Let's go Rocks.
Love it. That's what I was looking for when I did the whole veiled ex-girlfriend thing earlier on this show. That's the kind of advice, the kind of text I want back. That's right. We love on this show. That's really, if you come away with anything and you are just now finding the program, now that we are simulcast on 2 radio stations, just know on this show, we love. And there are people who love the Colorado Rockies, and they are in the shadows right now, afraid to come into the light and admit that they do. And I am one of these people. I can't quit them, and I'll be watching tomorrow. For those of you on Extra Sports, it'll be the Sweet 16 and more on Jokic and Murray on KVOR.